Welcome back, Kidtown friends, to another edition of Tea Day. But instead of talking about we are going to talk about, do you remember these guys, the H brothers? So remember we had ch and wah and sh, and then what does this say? You got it. So starts with T. So I thought we would talk about something that starts with this H brother. And guess what I found? It's been raining a lot off and on the past couple of weeks because it's springtime. So I had this cool book. I've never actually read it, Kidtown, but it's called Thunder and Lightning. So I thought we would talk about why thunder happens. So I did a little research, and it turns out that storms occur because land is warm and there's warm air that rises from the land, and then when it meets cold air that comes from above and they come together, they form clouds. And when we're going to have a thunderstorm, you might see clouds that form that are really dark and tall and puffy. And why thunder occurs is because it is the sound that lightning makes. And the way that lightning is formed, this is really cool, is see these little boxes here? Those are ice, so ice cubes. But in the clouds, it's probably not going to look like an ice cube that comes out of your refrigerator. But ice particles or frozen water hit just water particles or raindrops inside the cloud, and when they bounce together, they create electricity or build up electricity, and there gets to be so much electricity in there that it needs to come out. So these bounce together, and then all of a sudden these come down to the ground, right? Isn't that cool? So they come down. So they might bounce. There might be lightning bolts inside the cloud. There'll be lightning bolts that go from cloud to cloud, and then there's ones that you see that come down to the ground. So that's how lightning happens, and the lightning is the sound, or the thunder is the sound of the lightning. Okay, so let's get to this little story about thunder and lightning. So look at, this is thunder and this is lightning. So look at, he's a dark cloud and he's a lightning bolt. And there's also a little boy and a penguin, which I know you guys, a lot of friends like penguins in my class. I know that. Widget and Wobble lived on the edge of the woods in Willow Grange, far enough from the railroad that the whistle of the evening train sounded like the sigh of a sleeping cat. So it sounded like a very, ooh, it's a big book. Very quiet place. Oh, look at them. They look like good friends. They had become good friends despite their differences. What with Widget being an elf and Wobble being a penguin, but it was all the same to them, and they got through their days by trading kindness like everybody does. I love it. We talk about that all the time, how being different is awesome, right? You can be friends with people that are very different from you, and being kind, right? The 3 B's. I already love this book. One spring evening, like every other that had come before it, Widget and Wobble said their goodnights and shuffled off to bed. They were so sleepy they didn't notice that the 2 clouds that had floated in the afternoon sky had joined with others in a dark and endless blob that resembled cotton candy dropped in the dirt at a carnival. Ooh, I totally can imagine that. That's a good way to describe that. Uh-oh. It was Wobble who woke up first, hearing the wind through heavy raindrops against the window. He thought at first Widget was up early cleaning his marble collection, but when a flash of light made sudden sharp shadows leap against his wall, he gave a scream that most would have said could only come from a much larger penguin. Oh, he was scared. Look at him in his bed. Oh, the poor guy. It was no time at all before Widget appeared at his door, his eyes droopy with the weight of a dream he was just beginning to enjoy. The dream had involved a box of puppies, so Widget was a bit annoyed that Wobble had pulled him from it. Uh-oh. Puppy dreams are great. But it was nice that he's helping his friend out. Monsters! Goblins! Mean stuff, Wobble whimpered, pointing to the window. There? Outside? No, no, said Widget. It's just a storm. Just a storm? Just a storm? But that's worse, Wobble screeched as another bolt of lightning hit the room. I hate storms. The noise, the scariness. But it's just noise, Widget suggested. What difference does that make? Wobble said. Look at, we're talking about it in bed. Ooh, look at that lightning bolt. Thunder shook the room, sounding even fiercer than before. Ah! Wobble shouted, throwing the blanket over his head. Wobble, calm yourself. Don't you know what a thunderstorm is really? Asked Widget. What do you mean, really? Ooh, see, sometimes it helps if you're scared of something to kind of find out why it's happening. Then that kind of makes you feel better. Widget's eyes widened. You've never heard the story of thunder and lightning? No, said Wobble, slowly emerging from under the covers. Oh, now I understand why you're so upset. Just relax and let me tell you, Widget said, sat down, and began his story. Ooh, I love stories. A story within a story. Now, this happened a long time ago. It was back when thunder and lightning were just kids. They were lucky enough to be next door neighbors and best friends. Every morning they rolled out of their beds, ran to the yard between their houses, and began to play. And when they played, everyone for miles around knew it because their fun would shake the ground and light up the sky. It was the purest, wildest, loudest, brightest, and most fun that anyone had ever seen or heard tell. Look at them. They're playing football. Other kids were a little jealous, of course. They would try to join it, but no one could keep up with thunder and lightning. Just a game of catch would send other kids running like they were dodging a meteor shower. And kick the can was like taking your life in your hands. Well, those are both very powerful forces, right? Thunder and lightning. But still, the noise of their playing made others long for such a friendship. It even made grown-ups wish to go back to a time when it was not odd and awkward to climb a tree and spend the afternoon seeing who could spit a cherry pit the furthest. Then one day, Thunder's parents sat him down and told him they were moving away, far away. Thunder was terribly upset. He cried and held his breath and locked himself in his room, but it was no use. Arrangements had been made. The house sold and the packing began. They would leave the next day. Oh, no. When lightning came and rang the bell that day, ready for an afternoon of stick races down at the creek, he was greeted by Thunder's tear-stained face, filled as it was with sadness. But you can't. They can't, Lightning protested. Tomorrow? Why so soon? You're joking, right? Oh, they're so sad that they're not going to be able to spend time together. But Lightning knew full well Thunder was not joking. My mom and dad say we'll come back and visit as much as we can, Thunder sniffled bravely. Oh, that's good, Lightning mumbled, looking at his shoes. Oh. With all the packing, there was no time for play that day. Then the next morning, Lightning jumped from his bed and ran across the yard, only to find Thunder's house empty. He had gone. Wow, that was fast. Is this story supposed to make me feel better? Wobble interrupted. I'm not finished. Just listen, Widget scolded. No idea what's going to happen. Anyway, it was soon fall, and Lightning moped about all the places he and Thunder used to play. He made an effort to have fun with other kids, but he would typically find himself alone beneath a pile of leaves, replaying an old game of stickball in his mind. And winter was worse, with one-sided snowball fights and solo sled races. Wow, a lot of time had passed. But eventually, spring came again, and with it came the news that thunder would be visiting. Ooh. Lightning waited patiently through the morning, but finally he couldn't hold it in any longer. His excitement lit up the sky. Thunder saw the flash and knew it was his friend. He called out with a great echoing reply, and so it went as they drew closer to each other until finally, when they were in the yard, fiercely playing once again like they had never parted, the sky opened up with their energy and happiness came pouring down, and everyone around smiled to hear them reunited. That's how it went until their parents called to them. They had played long into the night, and now it was time to go. So the two called to one another as thunder went off. Lightning flashed an idea for a game the next time they were together, and Thunder rumbled his agreement. You see, that's all a thunderstorm is really. Just the sound of two best friends coming together to play. Oh. And you wouldn't want to keep them from their fun, would you, Wobble? Widget asked. Me, of course not, Wobble insisted. It's not like they want to keep anyone awake, but they only get to see each other every so often. So sometimes they play very late into the night. Oh, that makes sense. There's just two friends playing. A flash of lightning lit up the room again, but the thunder hesitated, finally calling back through the clouds. You see, I think they're just about done for tonight, said Widget. Ah, that's too bad. That means Thunder has to go home, said Wobble. Yes, Widget said. Well, I'm glad they could play. Ah, see, it made them feel better to think about it in a different way. I think that's why so many grown-ups love a good storm. They like to hear thunder and lightning playing, like when they were young. Me too. Well, good night, Widget, Wobble said, simply sliding down under the comfort of his blanket. Good night, Wobble, Widget replied. Aw, now he feels a little better. It's not scary anymore. He returned to his room and settled into his own warm bed just as Thunder and Lightning said their last goodbyes above the rooftops of Willow Grange. And that's it. So maybe you, oh, I know, I want to show you one other thing. So I had this book called Thunderstorms, and in it I found something cool about lightning rods. So I don't know if you've ever heard of a lightning rod, but it says it can protect a structure, so like a big building, from being damaged by lightning. It is made of a metal that is a good conductor. It carries the strong electrical current from a lightning strike safely to the ground. If the lightning were to strike material that is not a good conductor, it would do a great deal of heat damage. Lightning usually strikes the highest point. A lightning rod is built to be higher than the structure it is protecting. So here is the Empire State Building, which is in New York City. So the Empire State Building was designed to serve as a lightning rod for the surrounding areas. It is not true that lightning never strikes the same place twice. Okay, so that's a myth. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but so it can strike in the same spot multiple times. The Empire State Building is struck by lightning about 100 times a year. Wow. So there's this big metal rod on top of the Empire State Building, and these are on a lot of big buildings in Chicago as well too. So the lightning comes into the big metal rod, and then there's a wire that goes down the building to another metal rod, and then that leads the lightning or the electricity into the ground so that it doesn't damage the building. So that's kind of cool. Thought I'd tell you about that. All right, so maybe you can teach your moms and dads about why lightning happens. Remember, it's the little ice particles inside the dark clouds and the little raindrops. And when they bounce together, they create electricity, and that electricity has got to go somewhere. So sometimes it comes down to the ground, and that's why we see lightning. And that's why we hear that big sound as well, too. All right, friends. Well, hopefully you get to enjoy playing in the rain one of these days. See you soon.